Okay, we are live now with Greg from Eastside Arm Wrestling. We're just gonna take a minute before we jump into it, just so some people can join.
hmm This is the part in like the fix where Neil is asking if we're live right now.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
just got the notification on my phone. We
that's great.
confirmed
You
we
said
are
all that.
live.
Awesome.
Have you been on the fix before?
No, never, never. I don't think I know them well enough to for them to warrant me to be on that
Uh,
podcast yet. But I would love to one day if Neil and
yeah,
the gang are open to it. Yeah.
that would be cool. Okay, yeah, let's get started. So, Greg, thanks so much for jumping on. For those of you who don't know, from Eastside Arm Wrestling, he's a very good arm wrestler. Love your videos. I really like your measured approach to your training, to your teaching, and then love what you're doing promotion wise. So, tell us, for people who don't know you, tell us a little bit about yourself, about your arm wrestling background, what got you into arm wrestling.
Awesome. Thanks, Josiah, for that intro, and Caleb as well for like getting me on this show. For me, just a little bit of background about myself. For those of you who don't know, I'm Greg. I run this channel, YouTube channel, Eastside Arm Wrestling, mostly focusing on the arm wrestling scene over here in Asia, specifically Southeast Asia, but also like the wider Asian sphere. Been arm wrestling since I want to say late 2010, early 2011. So
Oh
the
wow, so it's been a while.
almost 15 years, I would say. Yeah, quite a while. Started when I was about 15 years old, so doing this about half my life right now. I'm turning 30 this year.
Wow,
Yeah.
very cool.
Uh, Arm wrestled like pretty much casually for the first, I would say, 5 6 years of my life. Then slowly started transitioning into competing only after I got out of the military because I was in Singapore. We have conscription, we have the draft. So
Hmm.
all guys have to go through 2 years of military service. So
Yep.
that put my training on pause for a while until I got to college. And then that's when I had the time to start competing. And this channel, Eastside Arm Wrestling, only came about like I would say right around COVID time, like 2020, 2021. And that's if you guys know, start of the start of like when modern day arm wrestling, like the
Yeah.
huge boom with like Larry Wheels back then, Juji Mufu started getting
Yep.
into it. And yeah, and that's when like the real like resurgence of arm wrestling was happening, especially over here in Singapore and in the region as well. And I saw that as an opportunity to sort of grow the recognition of the sport in the region, and also to
Yep.
form a community over here in Singapore where like people could just come together and train. Because back then, when I first started arm wrestling 15 years ago in Singapore,
Yep.
there were like 3 4 of us, maybe five
Really.
tops. Yeah. And
What?
Singapore's not a big country. It's not a big
Yeah.
country. Like locals, like if we're not talking about like people who are just here temporarily to work or something like that, we're only like 3 million people, so really small country.
Yep.
So local scene has blown up from like 5 people to now almost 500 people in this little island country. So yeah, that's
Yeah.
like a short backstory of myself and like the history of Singaporean arm wrestling.
Yeah. So for someone who got into arm wrestling 15 years ago, like current day, a lot of people got into arm wrestling through like YouTube or Devin Lorette. Like that's we saw the old WAL videos, and that was our first like showing of arm wrestling 15 years ago when you got into it. What was your first
Mm-hmm.
interaction with arm wrestling? Like what got you into it?
Yeah, so back then, obviously, didn't have like WAL and all these things. There was WAF, there was like
Y-
world championships every year, but like as someone who had completely no background in arm wrestling, you wouldn't like just stumble onto like a WAF arm wrestling video or something like that.
Yeah.
You know,
Mhm.
I don't even remember if they were even uploading like WAF videos back then. But it was really like, I think it was a way that probably still resonates with most people. Um, like it was just, at the school table with your buddies, a couple of guys, hey, you want to arm wrestle?
Yeah.
And one thing leads to another, trying to beat the bigger guy. And I've always been like a pretty strong guy, but not like the strongest. So I've always been the middle of the pack guy, maybe like slightly stronger than the average guy. And
Yeah.
could beat some friends, still lost to a lot of friends, guys back then who were into bodybuilding, weightlifting, or like calisthenics, things like that. They could all still beat me. And you know, being the testosterone filled like 15-year-old I was back then, um, really, really wanted to beat those guys who could beat me. So
Yeah.
went online, looked up on Google, arm wrestling technique. YouTube was still in the early days back then. Tried to search for some videos,
Yeah.
and I did what I can to sort of absorb as much information as I can. There was like the Northeast Arm Wrestling Board back then. Um, there were very simple videos on. I forgot what website it was. I think it was like X Sport News or something like that. It was like a Russian or Ukrainian type of website,
Yeah.
with instructional videos from guys like Engin Terzi, from Ivan Matushenko, from Svetan Gashevsky. They had like very simple training programs back then, and that was really my first foray into arm
Yeah.
wrestling. Learning from the great stuff of that time.
That's really cool. Caleb, do you want to take it?
One thing I think is kind of interesting that you had to take like a break from arm wrestling for the military, because the same thing actually kind of happened to me. I'm still in the military, but I couldn't like arm wrestle for like a solid year, two
Right, right.
years.
You were in the Air Force, right?
Yeah, I'm still in. It's the National Guard for us, so it's like
Oh, okay.
almost like the reserves, pretty much, if you know about that.
Right.
But
Hmm.
for a solid like year, 2 years, I couldn't really arm wrestle. And when I came back, all the people who I was better than then, like, were better than me now. So
Yeah.
yeah, that I had a similar experience. So who would you say is like been the most influential arm wrestler for you? Like, who's your favorite arm wrestler?
Wow. Okay. Yeah, that's a very, very tough question. Um, Maybe I'll talk you through like a timeline of how that has evolved over the years. So
Hmm.
um, I think for most people back then, like their hero and still now is John Brzenk. He's like the goat of arm wrestling. That was like the first sort of hero figure that I was introduced in arm wrestling. But also back then, as an Asian guy, I was looking at Asians who were active in arm wrestling. I also saw Yoshinobu Kanai, and he was still an active and a very, very well accomplished arm wrestler. So
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
those two guys started out as being like really influential on me. And as I learned more and more about the sport, I think Devin was one who was very, very influential earlier on in my career, because he was really the first guy who sort of shared a lot of his knowledge with the wider like arm wrestling scene. He was doing like
Yeah.
seminars, making videos. They were like really crappy quality back then, like 240p, but in his garage with John Milne, with In the Hook guys, yeah,
Yeah.
like doing their weird lifts and stuff. And I learned so much from him. The first, I would say, like 5-6 years, I learned a lot from Devin. Then, as I started to get a little bit more, I started to like find my own technique, find my own way of arm wrestling. Then slowly progress to looking at guys that were of similar style as me. So guys like Svetan Gashevsky, he has very like open top roll kind of style.
Mm-hmm.
That sort of started to become the type of guy that I for lack of a better word, idolized. I don't like to like have idols. I think it's like you put these guys on a pedestal, and
Yeah.
they say never meet your heroes, right? But I still think you can learn a lot from all of these greats that came before us. But I think it's also very important to like try and learn as much from everyone, and don't like put any single person too high on the pedestal, because you might get a little bit too tunnel vision from that, and that's where a lot of the I found a lot of the toxicity
Yeah.
in the community comes from. Yeah. But if I were to have like a sort of favorite arm wrestler right now, it would still be Svetan Gashevsky.
That's
Mm,
very cool. That must have been cool to meet
cool.
Yoshi. You translated for him,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Funny story about that. I was not supposed to. I
Oh,
was
really?
supposed to. Yeah. So the story is, I was supposed to be there with my buddy Velen, who had a
Yeah.
match with Hunter Knopfs.
That was an awesome
Um,
match, by the way. That was really cool to watch.
Crazy, amazing match. Yeah, that was like really just dependent on who got the go, I think.
Yeah.
And so awesome. I was just supposed to be the corner man for Valen, and also to just compete at the tournament over there.
Yeah.
But had a I think it was like a 30-hour flight from Singapore to Texas,
Oh,
and like I touched down at like, I think it was like 6 a.m., 7 a.m. Had to wait till 3 until like they allowed like the checking in for the next day. So I was like sitting around in the lobby. Finally got to check in at about 3. Got in my room by 3:30. Laid down in my bed and immediately got a phone call from Valen saying, "Hey, come down. We need you right now." Yeah,
oh God.
yeah. So apparently, what he did was, he was doing the interview, and then Dexter was there, and he said,
Yeah.
and they're trying to figure out, how to do an interview with Mr. Kanai, and like Valen, as he was finishing his interview, he walked past Dexter. He overheard Dexter talking about that, and he was like, "Hey, Greg speaks fluent Japanese. Get him down here right now." And
Wow.
just full disclosure, I do not speak fluent Japanese. It's like conversational at best. I
Yeah.
know some words to get by. I know how to find the bathroom and things like that, but nothing like advanced. But I was apparently the only guy there who knew Japanese and English, so yeah. Didn't want Mr. Kanai to just be like put on the spot there as well,
Mhm.
with his limited English as well. So just decided to help out, and that led to many opportunities with him. He invited me
Yeah.
over to his club in Japan, very welcoming. He cooked for me and my wife. Like they had such a crazy arm wrestling culture over there. We were there from like 11 in the morning till like 6 or 7 at night, and they were
Really.
cooking like all the way through, like 6 hours
Wow.
cooking. Like I would say like maybe half a cow was sacrificed on that day just for just for that arm wrestling practice. No kidding. But yeah, so fun, so fun.
That's awesome. Was that the first East vs West event you went to, like in person?
Yes,
That
first
that
ever one.
that must have been really cool because like your guy Valen was awesome. I've been watching him for a bit. Him and Hunter were a great match, but to be able to see like Mindaugas versus Giannis Amelins, and then be able to see Jan
Yeah,
Brzenk versus Yoshi Kanai, like that must have been really cool seeing those
so
matches in
many
person.
good matches. Yeah, really, it was really such a privilege to be there.
Mhm.
Do you think there's any chance of Valen getting more matches? Because I'd love to see it. Do you think you'd be getting any matches in East vs West?
So initially, like how the conversation came about was that uh, I have a buddy over in the Philippines who works for East vs West. He does like the social media, the graphics and stuff, and
Okay.
we got to talking, and he's a big fan of the sport, and also being from Southeast Asia, he brought up the idea of having like a Southeast Asian to Engen, and that idea sort of floated around for a couple of months. Didn't really go anywhere until one day, um, I got a text message. I think I got a text message from, first it was Dexter
Yeah.
asking me like, hey, so if we want to have like a guy on East versus West from your region, like who would it be? Because back then, Dexter was still like a month into the sport. He didn't know
Yeah.
anybody, so he wanted to consult with me,
Yeah.
and
You
I
didn't
think
say yourself. You didn't say Greg would be
he
on.
no, yeah. He was asking if I would be a good choice, but this being like the first like guy from my region, I
Yeah.
want like the best guy to represent us as possible. And I could have done the selfish thing and just put myself out there,
Yeah.
but then if they at that time I was competing 85 kilos. They put me up against like 85-kilo guy. I don't know if there's anything I could do to any of those world level guys. People in that weight class. Who are they? Like, I don't know, David Samusha
Yeah.
of the sport. Yeah,
Yeah.
like I'm not doing anything. Like Nurdalit, Eiderkhan, no way. I'm not. I'm I'm confident in my abilities, but I'm not delusional.
Yeah.
So it was really between either Valen Low or a buddy from Malaysia, Mike Ford. But Mike is a super heavy, and I don't think that the super heavy level in Asia is right at that level right now or yet.
Yeah.
So I thought the best chance of showcasing our talent would have been Valen Low. And so I told that to Dexter. I think like on the very same day, like I got a call from Engin as well, and then we talked over the match. He was asking me like who I thought Valen should face, and the fact that he was talking about that, I was like pretty confident that he was already going to pick Valen. And I threw some names out there. Originally, I wanted Valen to either face like Kevin Palco or Joseph Maranto. I
Yeah.
thought that those might have been a better match for him because naturally Valen is closer to like what is it 157 70 kilos something like that. Hunter is a slightly bigger guy, but I'm guessing like they already had like the Cody Wood versus Joseph match lined up,
Yeah.
so that probably didn't work out. So yeah, but still it was an awesome show, and it also gave us the Joseph versus Cody match, which was amazing as well. So
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, Joseph has been stepping it up a whole lot.
Mm-hmm.
Been looking really good.
Crazy. He absolutely demolished that the Spanish guy. Crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we were in person for that event. We were in person with his Kevin Palco match as well in Atlantic City.
Wow. Okay.
Very cool. Speaking of East versus West, I know there was an event scheduled to be in East versus West. Can you tell us a little bit about what happened? I know you had a match with Auden. What happened with that? Is that ever going to happen again?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So yeah, that was a very sad situation, very big disappointment, because it really looked like everything was lining up. I was working with some partners also in the Philippines, and we had all the matches set. There was going to be like I think maybe 15 matches, bringing some guys from Europe, some guys from the U.S., Canada. Obviously, Auden was going to be involved as well. And everyone was good to go. But unfortunately, my partner over in the Philippines was not completely transparent with me. The venue was not quite locked in. The sponsors were like pretty iffy on the situation,
Yeah.
and they were taking a really long time to get back to me because the event was supposed to be in February, and like by December I was like asking them for confirmation on like the venue, like hotels, prize money, things like that, and they were not able to give me a solid answer, and it was a little too close to the event for me to be comfortable with. So in December I pulled the plug on the event. I told all the athletes that unfortunately, due to these circumstances, we were not able to like move forward with it. So because other than the athletes, like in my mind, I'm also thinking, people are going to be like not athletes, like fans are going to be booking flights coming to this event
Yeah.
if they think it's going to happen. Like there's a butterfly effect, if you keep letting this thing go on. And you know uh I I take like responsibility for not making this more apparent to the athletes and the fans earlier on, because I sort of already had the feeling that like things were iffy on the on my partner's end, like maybe a month or two back. But me and my my hope, my ambition that this thing would happen, like kept putting it off. They would say, "Hey, I'll get back to you next week." Then I'll tell them, "Okay, but next week you really have to get back to me." And then this kept happening for weeks and weeks and weeks until in December I just said no, it's too dangerous, too risky, and
Yeah,
yeah, very very unfortunate.
that's too bad. I know it's a much smaller scale, but Caleb and I have been putting on our own super match events. We scheduled one for June, went pretty well, and we have one up in December. And like I know it's much smaller because we're just having local guys, but the
Mhm.
coordination it takes to put together an event, there's a lot of work and planning that goes into that and a lot of moving pieces. So doing a East versus West level event, like I'm sure
Mhm.
there's so much that goes into that. Like especially when you're involving flights and hotels and then huge like sponsors that are putting
Yeah.
up money. So totally understandable, like not your fault at all. That it's too bad. Hopefully arm wrestling can get to a point where sponsors are like, okay, this is a serious thing. This is bringing in serious viewers, serious money. Like we need to actually be serious how we like deal with these arm wrestling promoters. So hopefully we can get to that point where we have more reliable like sponsors and stuff like that.
Totally. Yeah. And about Auden, yeah, I met him the first time at Texas. I
Yeah,
wanted to pull him a little bit more, but unfortunately, I was competing in the tournament that day, so I couldn't like pull with him before. And like
got it.
by the time like after the tournament, I think he had also pulled a lot of people, and he was pretty busted up himself.
Yeah,
Probably didn't make sense at that point. But the next time I'm going to be seeing him, I think probably will be in Australia, because I think his family's going over there, and I'll be there as well. Um, Not sure if I'll pull him because probably will be like in different weight classes, but there's an open class, so there
yeah,
might be a chance that we actually meet in the open bracket.
yeah. That'd be cool. I was really excited when I saw that match. I wanted to see you guys because I had been following you for a bit before that, and then I think I had been following you for a few months at that point, and then all of a sudden I saw you had a match with Otto. I was like, oh, like hell yeah, like that was awesome. Like I really want to
Mhm.
see that. But so you just had a super match. That very cool, great production, great crowd. Like what's next for you, like super match wise? Are you just trying to win tournaments or are you like going after someone in particular for like a super match?
Yeah, so my bread and butter has always been tournament pulling.
Yeah,
I don't have like the best endurance, so I really like that tournament format where you can just beat an opponent, get a little bit more rest, and prepare for your next one. And I also like the variety of a tournament. You as long
yeah,
as you're not like the weakest guy in the bracket, you're gonna probably be able to pull like maybe 4 5 guys if you're a little bit lucky. And I
Mhm.
like the that chance to pull as many different people as possible, which
yeah,
is not possible with a one-on-one super match thing. Um, but it's not like I'm against super matches. I just don't seek them out. Every super match that I've been a part of has either been like the opponent asks me, and I just accept it, or if like an organizer comes to me or a promoter comes to me, and they want me to be a part of the promotion,
yeah.
but I don't actively seek it out. So most likely the next big thing for me is going to be that over the top Australia event in October.
That should be awesome. That sounds really cool.
So you're not really a big super match guy. So is your goal in arm wrestling more like the WAF? Like, what's your greatest goal to achieve in arm wrestling?
Eventually, I mean, anyone who is like um, like someone like me, I'm a very competitive guy, losing. I mean, I think I've heard Devin say this, like losing disgusts him. So I'm sort of like that. I don't like to lose. So I want to be as good as I can be. And what that means in terms of like, what that means in terms of like events or something tangible. WAF is definitely something that I want to experience. I've never competed at WAF Worlds before. So that's something I want to go, if anything, just for the experience, just to open my eyes to like what the world level is. But of course, I would love to be on like a big production, like King of the Table, East versus West, something like that. Do I think I will ever reach like among the champions of the world? Like realistically speaking, I don't think so. I don't think I'm ever gonna be like a Mindaugas or an like like a Bojidar or like a Todd Hutchings kind of guy. I think I'm always gonna be sort of that, like sort of almost breaking in to the top level guy. So, but I think what I can do, what I can bring to the sport is entertainment. I think I can bring a bit more personality into the sport.
Yeah.
I think I talk about the sport a lot, and I can build publicity and marketing, and that would lend itself to a bit more value from whatever I'm taking to the table. It's not just me being an arm wrestler. I can make a story out of it. So I think something like maybe King of the Table would be something that might be better for me rather than East versus West, where it's like world caliber arm wrestlers.
Yeah. Before we go to the next question, before we go to Caleb's next question, let's just say hi to the chat. We got Lad Russo in here. We have Arm Historian. Very cool. Yusuf
Awesome guy.
Wilson. What's up? We got
Nick
Nick
Stone.
Stone. What's up, Nick? We have a few questions for Greg. What's Yoshi like in person?
Oh, Yoshi, yeah. So unfortunately, like my command of Japanese was not like advanced enough to be able to convey this, but Yoshi is like, he's such a joker. Like he is like the least serious guy ever. And he talks like pretty much the hillbilly equivalent in Japanese, which made it like 10 times harder to translate for him.
Oh, okay.
So like imagine like a non-native speaker of English like trying to talk to someone from like the deep south, Louisiana or something like that.
Yeah.
Like it was so terrible, but it is endearing. He is a very endearing figure. His brother, his entire gang over there in Kobe, Japan, they were very warm, welcoming. As they were like driving me on the way, he was singing like old songs in the car, from like the 70s or 80s or something like that.
Yeah.
And really very like chill guy, and likes to joke around. Like I remember like halfway during the barbecue we were having, he suddenly like disappeared, and I was wondering where he went. And then my wife was pointing at him like at a direction behind the gym, and then I saw him coming out with a hose, and he just started spraying it at everyone, and it was a lot of fun. Like, yeah, really like a prankster kind of guy.
Yeah, that's I want to see him on another event. That'd be great. I love seeing him pull. We have another question. Sorry, I'm probably gonna butcher this name, but what was it like meeting Svetan?
Okay. Svetan Gashevsky.
Svetan.
Yeah, so that's the guy from Bulgaria. Svetan, I didn't like expect to meet him. This was when I was competing at a tournament in Indonesia back in December of 2023. So I went there with two buddies of mine, and we were competing in the under 85 kilos, which is about 189 pounds. And Svetan was there as well with a buddy of his. And for those of you guys watching right now who don't know, Svetan is basically like like the John Brzenk of Bulgaria. He's like the legend, all-time great over there, multiple time world champion, um, and he was really unassuming guy, like both in terms of like his physique as well as his personality. Very quiet guy,
Yeah.
mostly kept to himself, um, but also very like more friendly than I expected, because I knew who he was.
Yeah.
I was learning from him like a decade ago on online on websites, and finally getting to see him in person. I was a little bit awestruck, seeing him actually in the flesh, and approached him with my buddies, and he was really open to us, shared a lot of his knowledge, and he was very encouraging to us, saying like we could go far, like in a few years we would really be like at a very high level. And he was such a beast. He was
Yeah.
competing at 85 kilos, 100, like he wasn't even like a 189. I think he was like 175 on that day, and he competed in 85 kilo class, demolished everyone, competed in the open class, demolished everyone, and then competed in overall, also demolished everyone. I think he brought back like the equivalent of maybe 5 or 6 thousand USD in
Oh
prize money
wow.
that day. Yeah,
Wow.
really big day for him.
I
But
think
yeah.
yeah, a common thread we kind of see with arm wrestlers is because we had the same experience. We've met all of our arm wrestling. I don't want to say like idols, but like people that we've looked up to, people that we
Mhm.
saw on YouTube years and years ago. And I think the common thread has always been like these people are so down to earth. And I think
Yeah.
the cool thing about arm wrestling is it's still so small and niche that you still feel a part of it. Like if you go to
Mhm.
a soccer game or a tennis match or basketball, like any of those sports. And if I play pick up basketball or you played in high school or something, it's not the same. It's like we're not both basketball players. Like an NBA player
Yeah.
is completely different. But
Yeah.
like
It's
when
not like you can just walk up to LeBron James and say hi.
exactly,
And it's
exactly.
not. They
So
don't even seem like real people. It's like a
Hmm.
character on TV or something like that. But in arm
exactly.
wrestling, you can. It's so beautiful.
Exactly. And you feel like we're also arm wrestlers. Like we
Hmm.
dedicate a lot of time to our training, to our competition, to growing the sport with our channel and stuff. So it feels like you're part of the community. Like one of the
Hmm.
coolest things is like one of the first times I met Devin, I was actually talking to Auden because we had met him before. And Devin walked up to me and he was like, "Are you one of the Natty Bros?" And like I hadn't said anything to
Oh,
him, and he just like had been watching our videos, and he like recognized
how
us.
cool
That's
is
when
that?
And
that's
That
when we had
is
like 400 subscribers. Like it
wow.
was it's crazy. Camille
That's so
Jablonski's
amazing.
in the chat. What's up, Camille?
I don't think that's the real one. I'm seeing a lot of
That'd be
Vietnamese
funny if
flags
it
over there.
was.
Yeah.
we can do one more question from the chat before we go on. It's from Lad Russo. Which is worse, Greg's Japanese or Ray's Russian?
I don't know who's gonna be able to judge that. You'd have to have like someone who's fluent in English, Japanese, and Russian. So I don't know. I would like to say my Japanese is better, but I don't know. Ray might fight me on that.
Yeah.
Ray is also a really nice guy. It was cool meeting him.
Hmm.
So what would be, I know you said you're not like super into super matches, but if you could have like one dream super match with someone, who would it be? Like who would be a dream that's I've made it. Like I want to match with him.
Mm. Wow, that's a tough question. I never really gave any thought about that. Let me try and narrow it down. So definitely not someone from my region. I would want it to be something more international.
Yeah.
Probably someone from the U.S. I would have to think about who is someone from the U.S. or like North America that is similar weight as me. Um, Someone who has it wouldn't have to be like very accomplished, but I would want them to be like at least a presence on social media for it to make sense. I think guys like Artem might be a little bit out of my reach just yet. So someone like maybe a touch below Artem.
Yeah.
No idea who that could be, but someone like that.
Yeah. That makes sense. Someone said Angarbayev, maybe.
Angarbayev. Definitely. Yeah, Angarbayev is amazing.
He was one of my favorite arm wrestlers for a little while, just because of he was be like this tiny guy going against super heavyweights and beating them, and I was like, who is this guy?
Yeah.
And then I got more into it and saw it.
One of my favorite all-time arm wrestling moments is when Angarbayev is going against Irakli, and they were like in a top row war, and then he faked a hook. I
I know what
like
you're talking about.
when I saw that live, he went like in a split second, and it was one of the most unreal things. I was like, what just happened? It looks so cool. And he ended up beating Irakli. He's
Amazing.
amazing.
That was beautiful.
Poor Irakli getting beat by everybody.
My goodness.
So I'm sure a lot of people want to know about this, and there's a few questions in the chat. So we watched some of your recent videos about some isometrics and stuff like that. Like, what is your current training approach? What are you focusing on? Like, what are your splits like? A lot of people are asking about this. And then how do you balance like weights with table time?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So over the years, my training methodology has it has transformed a lot.
Yeah.
Learning from different people. Starting out, with Devin Laird, I used to do a lot of his type of training, and back then he wasn't as specialized as he was right now. He used to do still like full body training, pull ups, push ups, things like that. But right now, my training is very very grounded in like powerlifting style of training, very very standard, very basic powerlifting methodology. So.
Yeah.
But modified a little bit for arm wrestling. My current training split is a 6-day split where I alternate wrist and side pressure and then rising and back pressure. So it's like one day wrist side pressure, another day rising back pressure, and that alternates, as well as like the intensity alternates as well. It's not like 2 heavy days in a row. It's like heavy and light, something like that. And that is my very general plan right now. But also specifically, like right now, it's very heavily focused. It's more heavily focused on my cupping.
Yeah.
So cupping has always been my biggest weakness, and I've been trying to take some steps towards getting it up to be able to at least support some of my back pressure, because my back pressure, I think it's pretty good for my weight. I'm known for being able to do like pretty heavy weights on like that Devon style back pressure lift. My PR was 58.6 kilos. Let me just see what that is.
Oh, wow. That's really good.
Yeah, so like 129 and something pounds for doubles.
Oh, wow.
That's more than
and that
Auden was hitting like 110 with that.
Yeah. So I think he's slightly higher now, but he's not quite as high yet. But yeah, my back pressure has always been really good, but my wrist has never been able to support that. So I always ended up like with someone of similar strength. My wrist was always the one that gave way. So what I advise a lot of, because I do coaching as well, what I advise a lot of my students, the more intermediate to advanced ones, is to put in more frequency for the parts that you're lacking in, because if with your current amount of intensity and frequency nothing is changing, then you're going to have to change something up. And I think these little muscles in our bodies can take pretty high frequency, especially if you don't like go balls to the wall every single time, not like just complete failure every single time.
Yeah.
And if you're eating well, sleeping well, the body can recover. But of course, like, everyone's a little bit different, but definitely, in general, your wrist muscles, your finger muscles can take quite a bit of volume. So, yeah,
So
that's sort of how I'm training.
increase the frequency and maybe decrease the intensity a little bit. Is that kind of
Yeah, yeah. I'm a big, at least recently, I'm a big proponent of higher frequency work.
Yeah.
The intensity, in like the 70, maybe 80-ish% range. I don't ever go like above 90%, at least, in the off season. I might go to 90 or so, like when I'm trying to peak for my strength. But it's not very often, because
Yeah.
when I found I pushed too close to like 90, 95, it wasn't really sustainable. I couldn't keep to my program, and every time you have to stop, it really like breaks the momentum. I think
Yeah.
long term, you want something that's sustainable and you can last for like months and months on end to have that steady progress.
Yeah.
and then
For
how
sure.
often do you do table time like with that training?
Yeah. So table time for me personally, just for me, I do it like once a month. So like sort
Oh,
of like Todd
really?
Hutchings. He does it like very
Okay.
infrequently, because table practice for me, I find it more useful for two situations. One is when you're newer to arm wrestling, so like beginner to intermediate, to get that technique, make sure that you're refining your technique. And second, when you're preparing for a match, when it's getting close to a match, and then you want to dial in your technical ability. But outside of those two instances, I don't think table practice does a whole lot for you. Even if you're doing it right, and by right I mean not going all out.
Yeah.
Finding a partner to work your angles, all that is good, but I just find that the ability to track your progress with the weights, it's like way easier. It's way less intuitive, in the sense that you don't have to guess at like whether you're making progress or not. Um, and it doesn't. And doing less table, it allows you to recover from your weight practice, and it doesn't hinder your weight practice at all, because
Mm.
you do you might be all good for like 90% of your table practice session, but then that one guy rolls in 2 hours late and he wants to go all
Yeah.
out with you, and then you're done for the next 2 days, and that really messes things up. So that goes back to me having a sustainable long-term approach to arm wrestling. So,
Yeah.
and I know a lot of us out there, we just don't have the self-control to be able to do quote unquote proper table practice. It's like most of us, we're working full time, and this table practice is like the only chance we get to do arm wrestling in a week. We want to try test our strength against our buddies. We're going to
Yeah.
go all out, and you're going to regret that over the next 2-3 days when you're feeling sore, and your gym training suffers. So yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
That's interesting. And for all like the new arm wrestlers out there, like don't do that. You should pull more. But for someone
Mm-hmm.
like Michael Todd, for instance, looking at like elite puller, you're elite puller too. But like the super heavyweights, he also does the same thing. He doesn't pull a ton. He mostly weight trains. But that's not good advice for people coming into the sport, because you need to learn. Like Greg's been arm wrestling for 15 years, so he has his technique down. He knows how to arm wrestle. So
Yeah.
beginners out there definitely pull, but for
Yeah,
for
definitely.
for you, like I definitely, and then some of the elite pullers, like they do that as well. But it's interesting the difference between, let's say, like American versus Russian method, like training methodology. Um, I think Devin was talking about this. Like Americans are very like no pain, no gain. So a lot of their
Mm-hmm.
training is like, oh, like yeah, that hurts, but like hell yeah, like I'm getting stronger and
Yeah.
stuff. And then the Russian training is like nothing hurts. Like everything always just feels good. And I think even in my short career, a few years of arm wrestling, I've definitely noticed that as well. I'm like, yes, I may be doing like bigger weights and like going hard, but if I'm hurt most of the time, like what's the point? So
Mhm.
like this last year or so, I've been taking more of that approach of just, especially recently, just recovering well, super high, like especially after like training sessions and stuff, just super high volume. Like Devin is a huge proponent of this, like hundreds of reps of like 10 pounds, just like to get blood flow, just feel healthy. And I think that's the best thing. It's the best quality of life because you're always feeling good. Of course, you need to progressive overload, you need to get better, but
Mhm.
it's more of a marathon rather than a sprint. And I think you're a great, like, for people to look up to, like you need to do it over a longer period of time. Like you're not going to become Greg, you're not going to become Todd Hutchings, you're not going to become Devin Lorette like overnight. So I think it's for everyone out there, like take it easy, take it over time, like stay healthy. And that's the most important thing in arm wrestling, staying healthy.
Amen.
Yeah, it's actually interesting because we were talking to one of our guys around here. His name is Joshua Grant. He's a WAF. What is it? In the
Mhm.
Masters. He's a
Josh Gustin Grant, right? Yeah.
Yes,
yeah.
yep.
Yeah.
So he's good friends with Engen, and he was telling us this was like a week or two ago that Engen pulls like every 2 weeks, and that when he was talking about like pulling once or twice a week, he was like, Engen told me, why would you want to get like really good endurance? Don't you want to get more power so you can beat the guys? He said something along those lines, and I was like, man, that makes a lot of sense.
Mhm.
So definitely an interesting way to train, and it's a lot different because like a lot of people are like, oh, you have to pull like 2 or 3 times a week, and I was pulling once every other week, and now I'm pulling once a week, and it's just like you have to find what's best for you. But I definitely think people go way too hard in practice. I do agree with that.
That's
Mhm.
a, that's an important thing because nothing against Devin Lorette. Like I love the guy, but like he's the most popular arm wrestler,
Mhm.
so people will look at the way he trains and be like, "Oh, I'm a brand new arm wrestler. I need to train that way." Like, no, like he's been
Mhm.
pulling for a very, very long time. Him pulling 5 times a week, like you should not be doing that. Like, don't like listen to everyone, like how they train and like do what works best for you. I think
Mhm.
that's the important thing. Is like arm wrestling is not like one size fits all. Like, find what works best for you.
And now a bit of a different topic. Speaking of Engen Terzi, so how do you think we bring like unity to the sport when it looks like it's East versus West? And then also a thing that I've noticed in the US is that it's like the old generation against the new generation of arm wrestlers. So there's like multiple splits going on right now.
Oh, okay. Can you expand a little bit more on that? Because I don't know about the whole like old versus new over
Yeah, so a lot of the guys that are like our coaches that have been arm wrestling for a long time, they're actually all supporting Engen in this.
Mm,
And they do not like Devin like at all.
mm,
And a lot of the younger guys are like, "Oh, the only reason I found arm wrestling is because of Devin, so of course I'm going to support him." So a lot of people here are almost treating it like Engen versus Devin instead of
right,
like Dexter and Robert Baxter and all that stuff. So it's a little bit interesting.
right. Yeah, I can see the narrative has been that way as well. I was quite invested in that whole thing for
Hmm.
like the first maybe 3 4 days. Then it really started
Yeah,
getting old, and I
yeah.
really honestly thought they would have resolved things by now. It's been going along like too long um for my taste. I haven't really caught up with the latest in the happenings. I saw like the Brian Shaw video that
Yep.
dropped like
Yeah, I
yesterday.
saw that too.
Yeah, and that was a
It's pretty,
nice like recap.
yeah. It made arm wrestling look unprofessional seeing Brian. I was like,
Yeah,
oh man, we gotta step it up.
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, like I think like there are a lot of egos. They're clashing right now, and I feel like them putting it all out there so quickly, they sort of like dug
Yeah.
themselves into this hole
Yeah.
where they have to double down in their position. Otherwise, you sort of like look like a fool if you just suddenly like change your view right now. But ultimately, you know I think all of them want what's best for arm wrestling. I think all of them want arm wrestling to progress. They just have their own way, their own mindset towards it. I honestly don't believe that any party is I would say malicious, like wanting to destroy arm wrestling. But I think they're going about it in a very very bad way, like at least like an unprofessional way,
Yeah.
to put things lightly. I know they're going forward with the latest East vs West with Brian Shaw's event, and I really hope that that does well. I hope that if that does well, then it might be a sort of like the spark that shows the Eastern athletes like, hey, you know, these Western guys are not out to destroy arm wrestling. They're not out to like kick you guys out or make it unfair. Because I've been following East versus West from day one, and
Yeah.
I honestly don't think like any side hates the other. Like I don't think the referees hate one person more than the other, except maybe like Devin or something. But every referee hates Devin. Um, but outside of that, I think everyone sort of has this camaraderie. As arm wrestling, like Josiah, you said that arm wrestling is still really really small community. Everyone is really a part of it, and I've traveled to like more than I would say like 10, 15 countries by now to compete in everywhere.
Yeah.
Everyone has been so welcoming. You don't really get any sense of hostility from any sort of party. I think everyone involved is really like just ego and emotion speaking right now. And it really, at this point, I really think that the only thing that can sort of fix this is some sort of like spark. There needs to be some catalyst, be it like the Shaw Classic event or something else that will show that the arm wrestling world, like like everyone is actually on the same page. Because right now, they're being clouded by like emotion.
Yeah. We always talk about like the future of arm wrestling. Like I always talk about the future of arm wrestling like with my friends, other arm wrestlers. Like we had an interview with Devin Lorette. We were asking about the future of arm wrestling. Like how do we grow the sport? How do we get ESPN level? How do we get to the Olympics and stuff like that? And that question kind of seems a little foolish right now because it's like we got to a pretty good point with arm wrestling, but then now we kind of got a reality check. Like we're still like infant stages of arm wrestling as a sport, like a global sport, like the way that this was dealt with. And I think it's a good wake up call because I think
Mhm.
hopefully the arm wrestlers are seeing like we need to be better. Like this is really hurting the sport. We're being really immature. Like the day after this all happened, like no one really knew what was going on. And like you said, people were going on social media, like taking sides, being super public about this. And instead of just communicating with each other, like people are communicating via YouTube videos. Like, no, you should not be communicating in public about this stuff at all. So, and like we referenced the Brian Shaw video. Like Brian is got to meet him, super awesome guy. I've actually been following Brian Shaw and Eddie Hall and Strongman longer than I have arm wrestling. I'm huge fans of those guys, super cool. And I think they really set the bar for professionalism. Like they're professional athletes. Brian Shaw's a four-time world's strongest man. He knows how to work. He has amazing work ethic. He's built this whole brand for himself. Millions of followers on YouTube. He has different strength products that he sells, and then he's been doing an amazing job with the Shaw Classic, putting on his own event. Like he is the picture of a professional athlete. And then so he's gotten a brand new look of arm wrestling. Like that match with Eddie was awesome. Really cool to see. We were in Atlantic City when that happened, and they brought in
Mm.
so many fans. I know so many of those people first time ever watching arm wrestling just because of those two
Wow.
guys. Like they are growing the sport so well. But I think it's a reality check for the arm wrestling community because if you watch that video yesterday, he kind of exposed the lack of professionalism even behind closed doors. He was like,
Mhm.
I'm trying to set up this event, and then you're just quiet. Like
It
I'm
felt
not
so
even.
embarrassing. It felt
I
so embarrassing watching that video.
I know.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
was getting secondhand embarrassment because like I feel like I'm part of the arm wrestling community and I want Brian to be impressed with what's going on. Like I want Brian to be involved. Like he is one of my strength people that I look up to.
Mhm.
And then I'm just like, this is embarrassing. Like if I'm ever putting on an event, like I don't want to do that. Uh, like if they were saying that about me in an event that I was putting on, like I would be so crushed. So I think it really shows. And luckily, Brian loves arm wrestling and his
Mhm.
relationships with guys like Devin Lorette, Todd Hutchings, like people he's trained with, and Neil Pickup and Eddie, of course. I think he's going to stay in the sport and he wants to grow it. But like, we can't mess up like that again. Like, we don't want someone like Brian Shaw leaving the sport just because we can't keep our egos in check. So I
Mhm.
hopefully, like you said, this is the spark. This is a reality check. So on the bright side, at the end of the video, he didn't confirm it, but he said it is possible that Vitali might come to
Mhm.
Colorado and face Devin. So I think that might be the spark you're speaking of. Like if that happens, that kind of might be like, okay, the rules aren't rigged. Like Devin isn't controlling everything, and then maybe some of the Eastern arm wrestlers will be like, okay, if Vitali, because
Mhm.
it's really like at the top of the Eastern arm wrestlers, it's Levon, Hermes, and like Vitali. So like if
Mhm.
one of their big leaders goes and does a match in America, and maybe he even
Mhm.
wins, or it's clear that it's a fair match, then maybe that will be the spark. We'll be like, okay, we trust them. They weren't lying. Like we are just doing this all together. So I hope that is the unity that we seek.
Yeah. Fingers crossed. Really hope so.
Yeah. And even if it doesn't happen, I think if they end up doing a event in Baku and Devin does go over there, hopefully that will calm some
Yeah.
of the tensions. But I think next time like stuff like this happens, we can't treat it like this. It's bad for the sport.
100% agree. Yeah.
So kind of we don't want to keep you too long, but kind of like the last topic that we want to go into is tell us about the future of Southeastern Asian arm wrestling, Singaporean arm wrestling. I know you guys are doing awesome stuff with Eastside arm wrestling. Like, what is your vision for the future? What is your vision for growth of the sport of arm wrestling in your area?
Yeah. So I'm just gonna speak from like a personal level
Yeah,
first.
yeah,
Like my mission with this brand or channel of Eastside Arm Wrestling has always been to, you know, make it big enough such that I'm able to host events for guys in the region. I'm able to sponsor guys to compete overseas, and hopefully make it like a sustainable living for myself and whoever else is around me. That's just on a personal level.
yeah,
It'll take some time, but it's something that I'm always going to be able to be working towards. On a more wider level, uh, some of you may have seen clips of Dexter talking about exploring, expanding East versus
yes,
West more globally. So yeah, I've been in contact with Dexter as well. Can't really speak to the specifics about things like that, but he did
yeah,
mention, he one of his ideas was to have smaller East versus West events throughout the world. And Dexter is a Southeast Asian. He's like a Malaysian guy
yeah,
who is currently living in the US. So he does have some personal vested interest in growing the sport in this region, in this part of the world as well. So I'm really hoping to be able to work closely with Dexter on that.
yeah,
And but the first thing, like in the near future, I'm trying to do is to sort of unite the nations within this region because you know the whole like IFA WAF thing is it's causing a little bit of a rift between some of the nations right now.
yeah,
So I'm actively reaching out to the leaders in the region to get everyone on the same page first, because like if we can't even have events together, then there's no moving forward with this.
yeah,
Um, Yeah, so that's my very like near future thing, which is the unity of Southeast Asia. Then beyond that, things like Southeast Asian Games, which is part of the Olympic thing, is something like further down the road.
Yeah.
So I know, like, you guys, the first video I watched of you guys you were talking with David Lade and Auden.
Yeah.
And Auden was saying that he doesn't believe that arm wrestling will ever get into the Olympics. I think that's a very practical opinion from him, and I don't think we'll be getting there anytime in the near future. But I still think it's something worth, working towards, whether it's within our lifetime or, the next generation's lifetime. I think it's something that we can work towards, making arm wrestling a more professional sport. And by professional, I'm not talking about like, being like earning money from it, but just having it more structured, making it more respectable. And if we get arm wrestling into, like the regional games, like Southeast Asian games or like North American games, whatever, like that's when, there will start to be like government supports. Then you'll start to see arm wrestling in schools. And from there, you start to build the community in other ways rather than just through social media. Having the government like support arm wrestling, that goes a long, long way in expanding the sport. And so that's something that I'm also trying to work towards, like getting arm wrestling at the Southeast Asian Games, which is like our version of like it's like a subset of the Olympics.
Yeah.
Other than that, so that's the quote unquote amateur side or like government side things, but more like private, professional side of arm wrestling is definitely try to work with the East vs West team to expand the brand on this side of the pond.
Yeah, for sure. I think countries like Bulgaria, Georgia, they have that approach where the government sponsor. Oh, and even Kazakhstan, the government sponsors them, pays them to be professional arm wrestlers, and the culture of arm wrestling in those countries it's awesome. Like it really is. They bring this level of just professionalism to the sport that's really unrivaled. It's really cool to see. And I know that's not attainable in every country. Like that's probably not going to happen in the U.S. They're probably not going to pay Caleb and I to arm wrestle. But I think it's a cool thing to try to attain.
Yeah, definitely. Especially in like, and even with like the limited government support in those countries that you mentioned, you can see so many champions coming from them.
Yes.
Like just having arm wrestling like in schools would be great. Like maybe the guys who can't exactly make it as like a D1 athlete in football or basketball, maybe they'll go for arm wrestling instead. Something like that. We just need like more eyes, more people involved in the sport, and I believe that it will go miles and miles in helping us grow arm wrestling.
Yeah, from like an entertainment standpoint, because I know you put on productions, you put on super matches. We both have YouTube channels, so we want to make arm wrestling entertaining. How do you think the future of arm wrestling, how do you make it more digestible to the general public? Because fighting for a grip for 5 minutes, that's not super digestible. It's not an easy barrier to entry. Like that, people are like, what's going on? They stop paying attention. The match happens. Boom! It takes a second. The match is over. They weren't even looking when it happened. Like, how do we make arm wrestling more digestible? If it's on the Olympic stage and people are watching it on TV and stuff, like, what do you think is the more digestible version of arm wrestling?
So my views on that are pretty similar to Auden, to what he said in your interview with him. So you're saying like he wants all the matches straight to go to the set grip. I agree with that. I think that whether it's like the WAL kind of set grip or like a ref's grip, the details we can work that out. But I definitely think like the entire like 30 seconds to a minute of messing around, it really kills the sport. So I actually tried implementing something like that in an event I organized late last year, and was pretty successful. We managed to go through the matches way more quickly. So it's straight to ref's grip, and all slips go to strap.
Yeah.
I want to just take out all the more like, what would you call it, like subjective things where you don't have to like guess if it's an intentional slip or not, where the referee has to interpret that, because then it starts to get iffy, and then you start to like think that the referee's biased or something like that, and we've got a whole rabbit hole that we can go down. Things like that. I think we are starting to get there pretty closely with some of the leagues that are out there right now, modifying the rules and stuff. We have the Mac guys also experimenting with different tables. I think that's cool. I think we should still experiment with these things, especially at these smaller leagues where they have the freedom to do so. Because I still don't think we found like the perfect rule set for arm wrestling, and implementing rules at the WAF level is really, it takes a long time. It takes a lot of red tape. So all the experimentation should be done at like these more private leagues where we have more control over things. And eventually, if there's a formula that sticks and people can really get behind, then we can sort of try and push that out to be standardized across like the different leagues. The only thing that I really didn't agree with is the running fouls. That's just something that's more personal on my end, because I know how you can sort of abuse the running fouls a lot. If like an experienced arm wrestler really wants to, it can really be abused very badly. So that's the only thing that I disagree on, but pretty much like 95% I agree with whatever Auden has said.
Yeah. What do you feel about like the consent lights? Like when you're ready to go. Well, if you had ref script, it wouldn't really matter. But like non-ref script, what do you think about that idea?
Yeah, I think that was a cool idea. Like the first time was when Devin was using that table that that cell phone company made for him, right? I think it's really cool. I haven't really given very deep thought into it, but I don't really see much like disadvantage to it, other than like the referee, one of the referee will lose his job or something like that because it becomes redundant. But
I agree with what you're saying, because I think we want to make the ref's job as easy as possible, and you want to make the ref a non-factor in the match, because a lot of matches happen and it's like, well, it's because this ref called this, and like you don't want that to happen. So I think standardizing rules, making them easier to enforce. Like if you saw some of the, I don't want to bash on any leagues, but like early King of the Table had like a few different rule sets, and then every single match had a different rule set. Like, how is the ref or even the audience supposed to understand that? Because the audience is like, wait, in that last match that happened, it was a foul, but in Devin's match it's not a foul. Like, I think that's a bad idea for the sport. Like, you want to make it as easy to understand as possible. I think it should be ref script closing at the same time. I don't like when one person closes first, because they get such an advantage. They can just squeeze so hard, and then the other guy closes, and then he already has them. So I think it should just be closing at the same time. The ref holds the fingers, and then they hold the wrist, make sure they don't cup in, say ready, go, and then if you slip once, you go to straps the rest of the time. So if it's a best of 5, like that's not going to take too long, like unless they're in a hook battle for 5 minutes. It's just going to cut down, make it more entertaining, and then the athletes themselves can focus more on the, I don't want to say entertainment piece. They shouldn't be focusing on entertaining, but they can be more focused on the match. They can be more focused on getting fired up, and they don't have to be like yelling at the ref the whole time, because I also think that's not the best look for arm wrestling. So
totally.
But yeah, Greg, thanks so much for your time. We know it's probably late for you. You probably have to get to bed soon. But thanks so much for hopping on the channel. Any last thoughts you want to share with our viewers?
So yeah, really happy to have been on this podcast with you, Josiah and Caleb. So happy. Final thoughts. I just want, like, if anyone watching right now, anything that the only thing that you can take away, if you have one thing to take away, is that we're all one family in arm wrestling. I think we should stay united. We're still really, really small as a sport.
Yeah.
I think East versus West as a name, you know, it's a good brand, but I don't like the idea of being split right now. I think we're all still under one roof of arm wrestling lovers, and no matter what, you know, what you're hearing in the news right now, whatever the athletes or organizers, promoters are saying, know that, you know, like the real arm wrestlers, the real arm wrestling fans, we are all brothers and sisters in this sport, and just I'm staying hopeful. I believe we'll get through this. I think things will only get better, and you know, arm wrestling still has a long, long way to go, but it's only uphill from here.
That's awesome. Hey,
Thank you
Greg,
so
thanks so
much,
much.
Greg. Yeah, it's been awesome. I would love to do it again sometime. I've been doing the isometrics, by the way. It's been
Awesome.
awesome. Yeah, I like it a lot.
Yeah, it gets boring. It gets boring, but after a couple of weeks or a month, I really felt it helped. So I hope it works out well for you.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thanks so much. I think we both have the same vision of growing the sport of arm wrestling in our regions, so very much aligned in that area. So thank you so much. We'll talk again soon. Best of luck in your arm wrestling endeavors. We'll be seeing the updates in your videos, so looking forward to that.
Thanks, Natty Bros. Hope to meet you guys one day in person.
We'll love
Let's
Definitely,
that.
go to
we'll get to
Singapore
grip up.
sometime. Yeah.
Amazing. That will be great.
See you later, Greg.